this video, we will be looking at how to convert a decimal to a percent. Before we do that, I want to review how to convert a percent to a decimal. 81%. To do this, we want to think about, what does percent mean? Percent means per 100. So 81% is 81 out of 100, or 81 hundredths. Now, to write that as a decimal is 0.81. 81 hundredths as a decimal. We can also think of dividing by 100. We move the decimal point 2 places to the left when we divide by 100. So 81 divided by 100 would move the decimal 2 places to the left, and you would get 0.81. So you can use this for any conversion for percent to decimal. This one here, 125%. Think of it as 125 hundredths, because percent means per 100 or hundredths. And then, knowing that when you divide by 100, you just move your decimal point 2 places to the left, we go ahead and do that, and you get 1.25. So 125% of something is 1.25 times that number. 6.1%, same rule, that's just 6.1 hundredths. Now you can divide 6.1 by 100, moving the decimal point 2 places to the left, you get 0.061. So our rule here in converting a percent to a decimal is to think about division by 100, because you're thinking hundredths. Percent is hundredths. And when you divide by 100, you move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Okay, so now let's go the other way. Let's go decimal to percent. So let's start with our decimals that we ended up with here. And go the other way to percent. Okay, so we see here that 0.81 was 81%. 1.25 was 125%. And 0.061 was 6.1%. And so what we actually just did here is we went backwards from what we did over here. Here we divided by 100. Here we multiply by 100. So now we want to think about multiplying by 100. And when you multiply a number by 100, you move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So, look at our examples. 0.81, move the decimal 2 to the right, you get 81%. 1.25, you move the decimal 2 to the right, you get 125%. And 0.61, you move the decimal 2 to the right, you get 6.1%. And these do make sense if we think about it. 0.81 and 81%. Those are just 2 ways of saying 81 hundredths. Because 0.81, the last digit, is in the hundredths place. So that's 81 hundredths. And then 81%, percent just means per 100 or hundredths, so this also means 81 hundredths. They're the same thing. 1.25, well, 1 of something is 100% of it. And then we have 0.25, that's 25%, so that makes sense that it's 125%. So now let's explore why this works. Why does this work here, that we multiply by 100 to convert a decimal to a percent? We'll use these examples to illustrate. The first one is 0.05. Okay, so we're going to talk about why it works to multiply by 100 to change it to a percent. And to do that, we're going to start with looking at a property of multiplication called the identity property of multiplication. And what this property says is that you can take a number, in this case 0.05 is our number, and you can multiply it by 1, and you're going to get the number you started with. So multiplying by 1 does not change a number. So in this case, what we're going to do is we are going to multiply by 100%, which is another way of saying 1. If you take 1 of something, you're taking 100% of it. It's the same thing. The 1 is actually the decimal equivalent of 100%. So now we can take our number, 0.05, multiply it by 100%, which is really just 1 again, and our answer should be equivalent to what we started with. It'll be in a different format, but it'll be equivalent. So when we multiply by 100, we move the decimal 2 to the right, we get 5, and now our answer is going to be percent because we are multiplying by a percentage. So we get 5%. So we can use the same logic on this next one. We take 0.879 and we multiply it by 100%. We want to get a percentage, so we're going to multiply it by 100%, which we know is just multiplying by 1. So we're not changing our number. And now, multiplying by 100%, we move the decimal 2 to the right, get 87.9, and our answer is a percentage because we're multiplying by that percentage. So the next one, 1.08. We can think about this as multiplying by 100%. We move the decimal 2 to the right because we're multiplying by 100, and our answer is a percent, 108%. And these, again, we can look at them and they make sense. 0.05. Decimal notation tells us to read that as 5/100ths because the 5, the last digit, is in the hundredths place. And 5% is also 5 out of 100, 5/100ths. They mean the same thing. They are equivalent. Now for this last one, let's just think about applying our rule without writing out this step. So 1.62, we think that's a decimal. We want to change it to a percentage. So we multiply by 100%. We move the decimal 2 to the right, and we add a percent sign. And we've made that conversion. So as you're doing this sprint, you want to think about just multiplying your decimal number by 100% to make it a percent. And when you do that, you know that multiplying by 100 means you move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and then you add the percent sign because your answer will be a percentage. Good luck on your sprint.